Hey guys, Lee with LG Speed and Custom, and in this video, we're back on the 32. So the last video that we did on this car, we took it for its maiden voyage, I guess. We fired it up and took it for a drive around the block, and it was awesome. It was best day ever. There's a couple little issues that came up. We've got the front left wheel. When you step on the brakes, it does not want to release all the way. It does eventually, but as you start moving again, you let the clutch out to go forward and you can feel a little bit of resistance and then it goes. So we gotta pull that drum off and see what's happening in there. I don't know. The only thing I can think of is the brake return spring. Maybe I didn't hook it back up. I don't know. We'll pull it apart and we'll find out. Another thing we gotta do is we gotta readdress the throttle linkage. It didn't work out. As I was painting this one, I thought of a better way to do it, and then just now I thought of an even better system. So I think we're gonna start with that. Come on in here and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So if you'll remember in the last video, we installed this 34 Ford gas pedal, and we've got this, I think it's a Rochester carburetor, that's from a GM, and it has its linkage on this side. So our throttle linkage, we had to put a little Z shape in it to get it to go like that. And what's happening is I moved this car, I was working on brown sugar earlier today, and I moved the car out to bring the truck in. And as I'm driving it, that happens. So I think this ball and socket is, well, this one's a little worn out. I mean, it's got a hole in it. That's how worn out it is. So I think the ball and socket's a little worn out, and I think because it is pulling on an angle, that's making it a little weird. But I've got a solution. So I was just sitting here looking at it, and I realized that there is a screw on the end here. And if we take this screw off, this little accelerator pump doodad, little lever, it's kind of stuck on there a little bit now, but it will come off as well. So what I'm thinking is if I make a little bracket, it's the same shape as that comes up with a hole in it, we can run a piece of linkage like this that is straight. And I think that'll work a lot better. Because this comes off, I can weld the bracket onto it on the bench, and then we can simply use this screw and put it back on. Does that make sense? So that it pulls like this rather than our weird little zigzag that we got going on. I think it makes sense, so let's do it. Let's start this video off with that. What do you guys think about that? Of course, I knew you'd be into it. Let's do it. So before we take this right off, I am going to put a mark on here so that we know that is straight up. So when it's on the bench, we can, we know what angle we're at. So. And then I think if we pop that spring clip forward, this should, yeah, there we go. Okay, we're gonna put this back there. Don't lose that. All right, so I've just drawn this little doodad up here, and basically this end here is this circle here, and then this length I came up with by measuring it on a Stromberg carburetor. So this was my plan B, actually, thinking that if we've got this same length, then our stock pedal is going to have the correct geometry for a stock carburetor. However, this isn't a stock carburetor, this is a different carburetor. And, you know, we could also do from this length to there where I used to have it.
That's what I was gonna do originally before I discovered the Stromberg idea. I don't know which one's which. I think the Stromberg one will work fine, provided these throttle shafts open and close the same amount as that Stromberg on the bench. We're gonna wing it. We're gonna cut that one out and try it, and if it doesn't work, then we'll just make another one with this dimension, and that should work, I think. It's gotta be better than what we had, right? All right, there we go. So that should go something like that. Yes, this is a little bit taller, but that is to compensate for, we gotta put a little bend in it so that this little nubbin right here will clear the accelerator pump on the other carburetor. Kind of like that. I've mocked this up on here, and it actually does clear. I'm still gonna put just a little bit of a bend in it because it's very close, and I'd hate for that to get hung up on something. Maybe something like this. Doesn't need much. Beautiful. Also, I don't know if you noticed, but I found a ball stud that fits these guys here. There we go. We've got like an 1/8 inch of clearance now.
I just grabbed a piece of 1/2 inch underlay and some carpet and mocked it up underneath the pedal here just to simulate what it's going to be like when the carpet is in it, because that's, I don't know, just over 1/2 inch thick, maybe, yeah, by the time you compress it, maybe 3/8 of an inch thick. So with that under there, we can, you know, go back to the other side and cycle our linkage. So by putting the ball stud on here, we can use like a piece of factory linkage. We're gonna have to shorten it a little bit. The main reason why I changed it to the ball stud is the original piece that I was mocking this up with. I don't know why it seemed okay when we were trying it earlier, but when I mocked it up again, it was a couple inches too short. So, but we can shorten this. So our pedal is at full throttle right now on the carpet. I've got this return spring holding our carburetor at wide open throttle. So if we shortened this rod so that this ball stud was on here, I'll cycle it here. That should be idle, and that's wide open throttle. So I think that is going to work. We'll get a measurement off of here and then see how much we need to shorten that. All right. So if we go, I'm gonna measure not to the end of the little clip here, but to the end of the actual, you see that little flat spot there? That's what's gonna be pushing on there. So if we measure from there to there, that gives us 2.25, 2 1/4. If we shorten this 2 1/4, basically that much, it should work. All right, let's take our Sharpie, mark there, and mark there. So we want to cut in between the Sharpie lines. We want the Sharpie lines to stay where they are. So to cut this, at first I tried a tubing cutter, but it just, I don't know if it's just too dull or what, but it didn't want to go through. Maybe this is too thick, I don't know. But it did make a nice line around it, and then I just finished it off with the hacksaw. So I think we can tack this together now, or weld it together, I guess. Probably something like that. These are, I've cut and welded these before. It's really tough to get them perfectly straight, but we'll do our best. Okay, I think I've got it clamped down in here as best as we're gonna get it to hold it nice and flat. So I'll go ahead and tack it up right here. Okay, let's clean this up with the sander, hit it with some 80 grit, and then I think our linkage piece is done. All right, we're all sanded up. Turned out pretty nice. Let's see how it fits. So our pedal is still at full throttle. Cool, that's idle. Full throttle. Idle. Full throttle. All right, we still got to weld our little tab on here. So I'm gonna grab a Sharpie and make a little mark. And then we can take it off and weld it on the bench. Obviously, I don't want to weld it on the carburetor for obvious reasons. All right, let's blow this apart, weld it up, paint it black, put it back. Okay, while our paint is drying, I'm going to take this hub apart and see what's going on in there. And a screwdriver. Well, the spring is hooked up. Everything looks really good in here, actually. The drum is in really nice condition. You know, these are relatively new shoes. The wheel cylinder is okay, but what I did notice is there's something on the brake shoe. I don't know if it's like grease or something. It seems to be coming off. So I think what I'm gonna do is maybe I'll hit it with some sandpaper and see if I can. Actually, the screwdriver is working really good too. I don't know, it looks like it's maybe grease or something. So I'm gonna clean this off and see if we can salvage these. If not, I do have another pair of brake shoes that we can always replace them with, but I don't know. I'd like to salvage them because I mean, they're like brand new still. So I scraped the big chunks off with the screwdriver and then just hit it with a piece of 80 grit and it cleaned up really nice. It just all sanded right off. So I'm hoping that's all that it was. All we can do is put it back together and try it. All right, our wheel is all back together. That kind of turned into a debacle. While I had it apart, I was like, I should probably clean these wheel bearings and repack them. And in doing so, I wrecked the wheel seal. So I called the parts store. They didn't have one. Called the other parts store and a third parts store and even the fourth parts store that I totally forgot about. Nobody had one. Called a couple friends. They didn't have one. So Shannon came up with the best idea. She's like, don't you have a whole bunch of old hubs sitting on a pallet outside? So I went through them and I found one hub that had a good wheel seal still in it, and I managed to get it out without wrecking it. It's actually pretty cool. It's an original Ford wheel seal. It's like one of the leather ones, and the leather wasn't dried up. It felt really nice on there, so put it back together with that. I stepped on the brakes and tried it, and I think it's okay. I could turn it by hand. Also, our paint has dried, and we are all back together now. I think this is gonna work really good. That's full throttle, and I was able to utilize our original return spring again, so that was cool. Yeah, I think that solves most of the issues that we had on our road test. We should probably go around the block and make sure it works, right?
Hey, the e-brake holds it on the hill. That's all right. Let's see what John's working on. Hey, puppy dog. So you guys remember John with the Chev bucket? This is his newest project. This is a Model T Roadster pickup that he's putting together. We bought it a few weeks ago as a roller. He's got a F100 steering box that he just finished putting in. He's got some shock mounts mocked up on the front. These hairpins, they were with it, but he had to shorten them. This is all just tacked right now. He's going to bring it over one day and we'll weld it all up. It's going to be a pretty cool little hot rod. John says he's going to have this on the road for under 10 grand.
Good, yeah.
Nice, too. Alright, so John and I just went for a trip around the block. He likes it. Our brake doesn't seem to be holding up anymore. Throttle hasn't fallen off.
Well, that's the farthest I've driven it, and it seemed okay. Our brake is no longer an issue anymore. It's working fine. It's happy again, so I'm assuming it was just the gunk that was on the brake shoes. The throttle works. It's a little touchy when you're letting it out. It's a little bit, but I'm hoping that's something that I'll just get used to. If not, I mean, we can always make this a little bit longer, and that will take some of the touchiness out of it. I'm also wearing my work boots right now, and they're just about every car that I own. They're weird to drive in. They got huge, big lugs on them, and they make it, I don't know, they make it weird. Roadster's just as bad, so. Anyways, I think I'm gonna end this video here. I realize it's a little bit short, but we didn't get a lot of things accomplished, but those couple things that we did do, like that throttle linkage took half a day, and then that wheel seal ordeal took another half a day, so I kind of run out of day. That's just the way it goes in the shop sometimes. Sometimes you have huge productivity, some days not so much, but these are still things that had to be done. So anyways, thanks so much for watching. As always, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Hit the website, lgspeedcustom.com, if you want any LG Speed and Custom merch. And we'll see you guys on the next video. Thanks for watching.